you can make the day more enjoyable by how you present the material
Amen.
too. If you hate math and it is
They're
a
gonna know
drudgery, it is a drudgery for you, they're going to read you pretty well, and they're not going to like it either, because that's the message you're sending out when you aren't smiling. So your smile and your enthusiasm and your joy, I think, is what's important.
Welcome to the Homeschool Journal, a show that unpacks the joys and journeys of the classical homeschool family. Here's your host, Carrie McGraw.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie, and welcome back to the Homeschool Journal. Today, we're going to talk about critical skills K-2, and we'll have with us my special friend, Michelle Tefertiller. She's going to share with us all the things that we want to accomplish with our kiddos in K-2. Now, if you're past those years, stay with us, because I know that you're a source of wisdom for those who are coming up behind you. And if those years are upon you, you're going to glean lots of great information and knowledge from Michelle today. Let's stay together and hop into our podcast. Michelle, I'm so happy to have you here with us today to talk about our K-2. We might hit a little bit on pre-K, right?
We probably should. We get a lot of phone calls about this time of year for those pre-Kers.
Absolutely. And emails as well. But before we jump into our topic, I want to tell everybody a little bit about you, not that they don't already know you, but let me just give them a little bit of information why Michelle is the perfect person to talk to us about K-2. She is our Director of Primary Education for Memoria Press and the Classical Latin School Association. Michelle's children attended our model school, HLS. Did they all attend? I don't remember.
Did.
That's right. Okay. And she also taught at our model school at HLS. And she's written First Start Reading Book E, Numbers and Colors, and collaborated on quite a bit of other material.
A lot of others, yes.
Right. So Michelle is perfect for this. And you're also going to talk about this topic or something around this topic, the building blocks of reading and spelling at Sodalitas.
I am so looking forward to that.
I know, so am I, in person. So excited.
To meet all the faces.
That's right. Hoping many people get to join us, whether virtual or in person.
That's
so,
right.
We're trying to do both.
Yeah.
So anyway, you bring to us these years of experience with both children and parents in our primary years. And as you just mentioned, you and I both take these phone calls, these emails that are like, is my child ready? They're doing this, they're doing that, but where do I place them? And in this year, this last 2020, 2021, we've had all these parents jump into homeschooling and not know where to put their kiddos, many of them jumping in these primary years, and God bless them. I'm so excited for those families. It's been beautiful to work with them, but the question always remains and always is posed, where do we fit? So let's start with those really young years. Like you said, we really kind of have to start prior to kindergarten, but I promise everybody we're going to cover kindergarten 1 and 2. What are these critical skills in those years that we need to accomplish? But before we can get there, what are some really important things that we should be doing in the home to prepare our children?
So to prepare your child for kindergarten, which is probably the hardest place to place your child to know if they're ready.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, we get a lot of calls from someone saying, my 2-year-old is ready to read, or my 3-year-old's reading already. And I smile, and I know that some of them may be ready, but more than likely, I want to say, just take a deep breath and let's let that child play.
Right.
And we talk about the skills that they can help to develop so that when they really are reading ready, they're ready to go.
Sure.
So the skills you're looking for, and you don't need to get a pencil and paper here because we have them on our website.
Yay!
At memoriapress.com. At the kindergarten page, when you click on the kindergarten curriculum, there should be a link there that says, is my child ready for kindergarten? And it will have those benchmarks. Basically, they need to recognize a few letters of the alphabet and know a few sounds that those letters make. They don't have to know all of them. And they need to be able to write their name. So hold a pencil and write the letters in their name. Again, it doesn't have to be beautiful penmanship, but you should be able to read it. They need to be able to rhyme. That's probably a biggie. And you can cultivate this by playing rhyming games or reading Dr. Seuss books that have that rhyme. Play these games in the car when you have them in the car and they can't go anywhere.
Yes.
Let's play this game. And it's better than some of the music
That's
that
right.
you listen. Anyway, and so play those rhyming games with them and play games to help strengthen their fine motor, those little muscles in their hands for
Yes.
fine motor skills to prepare them for writing. So beading, Legos, clay, molding with clay or Play-Doh where they're really
Sure.
squeezing. Clothespins are a
Oh,
good
how
one to
good.
remember.
Right.
So get them to help with the laundry that way and use those clothespins. But any of those things that would use those fingers and get them, moving and doing precision things with their fingers.
Now,
Legos.
for what some of the things that I did, puzzles.
Puzzles
a lot
are
of
good.
board puzzles, and that might not necessarily be, those fine motor skills, but you can find board puzzles on all these letters, numbers, everything just for that recognition. Your initial message, I think, was really important to draw out. And I think one of the things that I tell parents is don't launch too early.
Right.
Right. I mean, they may be ready to begin, reading, but they're not ready for writing. And so, we see these things in our young kiddos. We do want them to be children. You said that, and I love that. We do want them to still be children and play because kindergarten will happen.
It will.
Right.
They'll be in school soon enough and won't be given the time that they are now to play. And
That's
so
right.
much learning is
play.
gleaned through play.
Yes.
Yes. And the other thing I would mention is that the most important thing you can do is to read to them. Read out loud
yes,
to
of
them
course.
every day, as much as you want. And when they're little, they love to sit in your lap and listen to a book. As often as you do that, it's so critical for them, for their vocabulary development, for their knowledge base of things. So reading out loud to them is probably the most important thing you can do. And if your child truly is ready, if you look at those benchmarks or you're listening to what we're saying today and you're like, yes, my 4-year-old really is ready, or my 3-year-old truly has met those benchmarks and is ready, that's not unheard of. You can teach a 3-year-old to read without the writing.
Right.
It's not the recommended method, and
Right.
the method that we would say is probably the best method. But if a 3-year-old's really ready to read and they want to sit and listen to you and work with you, you can use Classical Phonics by Memoria Press and just do oral reading practice with them.
And there's not a curriculum for this.
There's
for this
really
book.
not.
It's not. It's so self-led. It's really just working through sounds and rhymes. And
Rhyming
and,
word
right,
families.
Rhyming word families. Absolutely. So there's nothing that the parent needs on paper. Parent, trust yourself. You can hop in there and you can work on these sounds, and that will just really firm up a foundation moving into kindergarten when we do need to start to write.
That's correct. And so, use that Classical Phonics, just self-pace, work as little or as much as your child will allow, but let them kind of be the guide at that
young age,
early
early.
age. And if you get started with that and they start to not want to do it anymore, or start to put up walls, or just
take a
break.
Right.
Put it aside.
right.
Let them play. Keep reading out loud to them.
Sure.
But put it aside. They're really just not ready at that point.
So let's go into kindergarten.
Okay,
Let's talk about,
let's do.
and when we talk about K1 and 2, we're going to talk about those skills that we're going to acquire in that year, what we want to accomplish by the end of that year. That's also for these parents that are going, where does my child fit? Once you accomplish these skills and these levels, then that's your benchmark, for when to move into first or second or something like that.
Right.
If you're transitioning in and out of different curriculum, you're coming into homeschool for the first time, something like that. So kindergarten. Michelle, what do we want to accomplish in kindergarten?
So by the end of kindergarten, your student should have mastered their short vowel sounds and be able to read those 3-letter CVC words with relative ease. So they can be transitioning between short vowels and long vowel sound with magic E. That's a good place for them at the end of kindergarten. But mastery of those CVC words is probably the most critical skill and the focus of the majority of our year. We spend 25 weeks on that in the Memoria Press curriculum because those sounds are so nuanced and so closely. They sound such almost the same. So we want to be sure we have them mastered. If your child's coming in to first grade, the beginning of first grade, I'm not skipping ahead on you. I'm just going to make a point. If they're coming into first grade, but they don't have those CVC words and short vowels mastered, they're really going to struggle.
Right.
So, but we do have something we can help you with that. But for kindergarten, mastery of the short vowels,
Sure.
transitioning between those and long vowels with magic E. And their writing should be, that's the year we learn manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the year we teach it. We teach it as we introduce a letter. We teach how to write the letter as well, both uppercase and lowercase. So this is our manuscript year.
Right.
They're writing the letters that they see in the print. So mastery of manuscript, CVC words.
What about
math?
Right.
Let's do some math. We don't want to leave math
right.
out. They should be skip counting by 2s, 5s, and 10s. They should be able to count to about 100. Just one string of numbers. They can probably go higher once you teach them. You know how to keep going, and then they'll go on and on and on. And as long as you'll listen, they'll count.
Sure, absolutely.
But to 100. Then also they should be able to tell time a little bit to the hour, probably on an analog clock.
Okay.
Digital clocks are easy to read, but an analog clock to about the hour or half hour. And they should know basic fractions, a half, a fourth, a third, that kind of thing. Those kind of things are just easily taught and with a little review are quickly learned. But the main math benchmark for kindergarten is they need to learn their addition and subtraction facts through about 7. 7 for addition, 6 for subtraction, but adding and subtracting with mastery through 7.
Through 7. So you've given us a list of critical skills. There are some things I think that happen in kindergarten that, you might not be able to put on paper, but they're really important. And I want to say a couple things to parents about this is a time that is worthy of encouragement. Learning is worthy of your time as a parent for your child. Sometimes it's worthy of a little bit of argument. To not be, that doormat because they're going to test you at this age. And so I would encourage parents to see that there are goals at this age we're trying to get done, but you're still very young, right?
They're still quite young. And, if the first year you homeschool is kindergarten, it's going to be a hard year. Your first year homeschooling is a hard year anyway because you have to transition between that teacher hat and that mommy hat. Your students are going to try. Your student children are going to try to negotiate with you.
Right,
Mom, do I have to do all of these? And you just look at those dimples, those sweet faces, and you have to say yes,
yes.
So you have to teach them. You're teaching them. Like you said, beyond the skills, you're teaching them that when you are doing your schoolwork, that you're the teacher. And it's just like if your boss, I'm not going to go to my boss and say, do I really have to do this? It's your job. You're doing your job. And so when you do your job, you do it all.
Because they're learning how to be a student.
They are.
And we also have to train them in that. So all this stuff is happening in that kindergarten year. And I don't want parents to feel the pressure of that. I want them to see also the joy of that. Because once they form not just the critical skills, but all the skills that they're setting up to grow a student in their home, their path is going to be easier year after year, step by step. So it's an important year. So,
it is. And if you set that standard though early, then you will be good. It will make all of your subsequent years easier. And so training them to sit at a desk to do their writing, yes, they'll want to lay on the floor or, with a pillow and you're at home. Have them sit in a seat when they're doing writing. It's going to make your life easier because, when they get into
it brings
second grade or third grade, they're not going to do their best writing laying on their stomach. So
it brings a seriousness and a respect.
It does.
This is the activity that deserves our respect and our time and our very best effort. When we're reading together, let's go sit on the couch. Let's throw a bunch of pillows on the floor.
If Mom's reading out loud to you, get comfortable. But when you're writing, when you're sitting to do your written work, your work, you need to be sitting at a desk. You need to have your feet on the floor. You need to have good posture. you need to have a good pencil
Pencil
grip.
grip.
Moms,
That's right.
check those pencil grips.
Well, I just did a little bit ago a podcast with Iris Hatfield of New American Cursive, and
she will want a good pencil
She will want a
grip.
good pencil grip, and it's so important. That's another foundational skill, another critical skill that we need to lay early, so that we can move forward proficiently. So let's move forward.
Okay.
Let's go into first grade. So what do we want to get done by the end of first grade? What are we accomplishing?
By the end of first grade, we will have gotten through the introduction of all of our basic phonics that students need before they take off in reading. And not only do we get through them, but then they take off in reading and we keep progressing. So by the end of first grade, students should be reading, be ready to transition into chapter books. So really that's quite a big gap. We have a lot to learn in first grade. And to be honest, the beginning of first grade should be pretty phonetically heavy. Because you're starting your spelling, you're beginning to read in real literature. So there's that transition from phonetic-only readers to reading with real literature. Now, you will have some students that at the beginning of first grade maybe aren't ready to leave those phonetic readers completely behind yet. For whatever reason, they need that phonetic practice to continue. So there are some phonetic readers that can continue into first grade, but not all students will need them. But we Memoria Press carries some for those that do need them.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
We're not going to jump into math. We're going to stay right here on our phonics
for a minute.
And maybe that struggling reader. So you've really gotten maybe 2/3 through the way of first grade. You're trying to transition into those chapter books, but you're just still seeing a bit of a struggle. What are some resources that we have or that you would recommend? I think you brought some.
I brought some. They're laying right there.
Let's talk about them for the parent that doesn't see things clicking as fast with one child maybe than the other child, or it's their first child. And, things are just not moving as quickly as they think maybe they should. What would you recommend with these resources?
Well, first of all, with the Wiley Blevins books, I love these for both the primary years and then for the older school years. But for the primary years, this book has a lot of little games and activities that cost no money. They're just little things you can do with your child to backfill some phonemic awareness skills that they may not have.
Sure. And this is the Phonics from A to Z by Wiley Blevins.
And it's got, in the back of it, it's got a long list of words that are categorized by their phonograms, kind of like classical phonics, only I think they have more extensive words.
Okay.
They have a more extensive word list. And then the phonetic readers you see there, 3 of those were used in the kindergarten program. And then there's 3 that we don't really schedule in Memoria Press in our materials, but they're fantastic.
And this is the American Language Series.
It sure is. And Fun in the Sun, Scamp and Tramp, Soft and White. Fun in the Sun could be great, and Scamp and Tramp for anyone who hasn't quite mastered those short vowel sounds and they need practice, whether they're in first grade or second grade. You can always go back to these.
Just go back. Right.
And
just do it again.
Practice.
Just practice.
You don't need them scheduled for you. You don't have to do anything else with them. Just read them and ask your student what they, ask them some questions about what they read.
Okay.
It's pretty simple, but give them that practice reading orally, those short vowel sounds. And then Soft and White would be the transition to Magic E.
Good.
So I would recommend those for anyone who's coming in but isn't quite sure they got all the skills from kindergarten to be ready for first grade.
Okay.
So use those over the summer or just layer them kind of on top of what you're doing.
Sure.
If you've gone ahead and started.
But the focus is just reinforce. Be patient as well.
Yes.
Be patient. It is going to click. It is going to happen. Okay. So we covered the phonics and the reading and what we want to have done. Let's go to math.
Let's go to writing.
Oh, okay.
We forgot the writing because we do reading and writing. The cursive, we're going to transition to cursive in first grade. So first grade's a great time to introduce that foreign language of cursive. We learned the foreign language of reading in kindergarten. So how about the foreign language of cursive in first grade to prepare them for the years to come? And you said you had Iris on, and I'm sure she did a fabulous job of giving you all the reasons why you should do cursive. But so a first grader, our program has first grade cursive.
Through
So-
New American Cursive,
through New American
right? Because
Cursive.
it's, I mean, it is. And one of the
Level
points.
one. Level
Right.
one teaches you
Level
how to
one.
form the letters. So use that level. If you have a second grader or a third grader coming in, they don't know cursive. This is great for some
Still a
summer
good
work.
spot. Still a good spot to start. You
Yeah.
know, right? And so integral in the brain development. That's one of
It
you know
is.
the biggest things that we talked about with Iris is that brain development and cursive. So we've got the phonics, we've got the writing
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to start, and we're continuing those fine motor skills. We're still finding that you know the children are really getting better and stronger.
Mm-hmm. And you're watching those pencil
and
grips.
You're watching the pencil grip. That's right. You want to go to numbers?
Sure. We can do numbers now. Let's go to math. So by the end of first grade, the students will be masters of addition and subtraction through 10. And so through K and first, we've used number families to teach the addition and subtraction. By the end of first grade, they'll master through 10. Like I said, they'll continue with the skip counting by 2s, 5s, and 10s. They will be able to skip count farther.
Okay.
And they'll be able to count farther. So whereas we really only expected about 100 with the kindergartners, with first graders, you know, up through the hundreds, they can pretty much keep counting and counting.
Okay.
Probably through the end of the hundreds, we wouldn't expect a thousands place yet. That'd be second grade, but.
So I would want to tell parents too, a quick little message on our arithmetic is that at this stage, kids don't need to know why. They just need to know the facts, just the facts, right?
They do. I get phone calls all the time and they'll say, you know, my child, they can add, you know, 2 + 3, but he doesn't understand why. And I'll say, don't worry about it. As long as he knows 2 + 3 is 5, we're good. And I have to tell you, every year I get calls like this. And when Cheryl Lowe was still with us, I would go to her desk sometimes and I'd say, remind me why they don't have to understand why.
Do I know why? Yeah.
But because even I would forget and think, you know what, maybe they need to know why. And she'd say no. And she taught chemistry in high school level. And she said, they don't need to know why. They're masters at memory work in these early grades. So let's let them memorize and the why will come later.
That's right.
The why will come later. And, you know, she was so right. Every year.
I know. So drill, really, I mean, you're starting to see at this level the beginning of drill, whether it's flashcards. I love flashcards. Huge flashcard fan for everything.
So much you can do with flashcards. So many ways.
And the number flashcards are some of the earliest to come, you know, and to work with. And then, you know, at some point in time, we're going to transition into speed drills. And I think that we have started to introduce those a little earlier than what we had previously, right?
We have. Memoria Press recommends now that we begin speed drills in kindergarten. But I have to tell you, it's not
about the speed.
It's not about just getting the
At
answers
that
to
age.
the addition and subtraction on the page. We're teaching them how to take a speed drill because young students can get very anxious if they're not able to do something right. They want to be able to do things right and get the right answers. And in fact, some will have tears. You'll have tears if they can't perfectly get everything perfect.
Sure.
And that's not what the math drills are about. At kindergarten, we're just teaching them how to take a drill, how to finish something in a
time.
in a finite amount of material in a timed
situation. Absolutely. Not make them be nervous. They're just, again, we're setting up that foundational understanding and skill for later. So
and how to read a timer and encode their score. So the first several speed drills, the students don't even know how to form their numbers correctly. So we're not asking them to add and subtract, but we might say write the before number to the number I say.
Sure.
And so they write a number. So we are teaching things, even though it's not a true speed drill.
Right.
At the beginning of kindergarten. Now, by the end of kindergarten, they are true speed drills.
Well, that's what's been amazing is by introducing it to them then and training them on how to do it, we found that they've really picked up on it faster than what we had, you know, previously in previous years thought, you know, would happen. So when they get to first grade, you know, then those speed drills become part of that regular curriculum, you know.
And you know what those drills do is they help the student to realize how important those flashcards are. Because before, when we would say, practice your flashcards. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. They'd tell you, oh, we didn't. Mom said I didn't
It's
have
not
to.
just that. Maybe parents did. Maybe parents didn't, right? Flashcards, folks. Flashcards.
Yeah. Anyway, so didn't have a real way to gauge it because we never did speed drills in kindergarten. But by first grade, when we did start speed drills, the students, it took them a little bit to get going and to get the speed drills and the hang of the speed drills and get them correct because they weren't doing their flashcards. But when you couple flashcards with speed drills, you kind of have the magic solution. You see, they reinforce one another.
Right. All right. So let's jump into second grade. Okay. We're finishing out our primary critical skills.
Okay.
What do we want to accomplish by the end of second grade?
By the end of second grade, we can start with phonics and reading again. They should be reading chapter books by the end of the year. So we do a very mild transition. You don't want to jump right into a big chapter book at the beginning of the year. Find ones that are I can read it level books that have, maybe a whole page of text, even though it's very wide spaced, large font, with some pictures, and then gradually transition to a book with more words, fewer pictures until you're finally into a chapter book. Not that chapter books don't have any pictures. Some of them have a picture here and there.
Sure.
They're still children and
Give
want
us
to
some
see
examples
pictures.
of some of the chapter books you want to have at the end of the year.
At the end of the year, Little House in the Big Woods, anything by Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Right.
Actually, Boxcar Children is a good, Magic Tree House would be good books for that time period. I'm thinking Courage of Sarah Noble would be somewhere in the middle.
Those are great examples. And those are all ones that, particularly Little House that encourages Sarah Noble that we use, So once we've gone through, we've talked about reading, okay, and where we want them to go, and everything is going to move in that direction because you've laid these beautiful foundations in phonics. What about, and in writing as well, we are moving faster in our cursive. Right?
We are. In fact, second grade, you should be able to begin second grade completely in cursive, except you might want to hold off on spelling for a little bit.
Okay.
But they will have learned all their letters in first grade. And by the end of first grade, the copybooks that Memoria Press sells transition from manuscript to cursive at the end of first grade so that by second grade, they're ready to begin with cursive from the beginning.
Right.
Start
because
with cursive.
we want them looking down the road, it's hopping into third grade that you want really proficient cursive, speed and accuracy in writing, because that's when in any curriculum, third grade really jumps up.
There's quite a bit more writing. When you
Right.
think about second grade, really, they're only writing comprehension questions for their literature. We're not doing a lot of writing for science or history or anything like that. Any other writing they're doing is basically copying.
Okay.
So they don't do quite a bit, but in third grade, all of a sudden, your Christian studies, your
everything.
science, almost everything has a writing component to it.
Absolutely. And it should. And that's where it should go. So
we want their hands to be ready and their brains to be ready to write as much as they need to without that hand fatigue. So
what about math?
Math by the end of second grade. Yes, they do not need to be solving all of the math problems of the world. They don't need to be doing algebra or geometry. They need to have addition and subtraction mastered through about the 18 family. So that's the main goal, actually, of K-1-2. If all they can do in math is have their addition and subtraction facts mastered, then you've done a good job.
Speed and accuracy.
Yes.
And then we are introducing multiplication, but we're not using that word.
They don't know it. All they know is they're skip counting.
That's right. But now they're skip counting, threes,
fours,
sixes,
5, 6, 7. Yes, skip counting. And the curriculums won't necessarily say skip count by sevens, but if you're skip counted by 2s, 3s, 4s, they've already done 5s.
Right.
Why not skip count by 6s?
Sure.
So add that skip counting in, and then in third grade, when you actually use the term multiplication, the students will be pleasantly surprised that they are
How much
already
they
able to
know.
multiply.
That's right. And memorize.
Yes.
And recite and drill and all of that.
All of it.
That's right. So there's a final message I kind of want to send to parents about these years. And it's going to sound a little bit off, maybe a little different, but I want to share with parents that I want to ask them not to equate the joy of learning with fun. And I know that sounds awful because everyone wants learning to be fun, right?
Well, we talked about play so much, and
We did, and that's really important as a kindergartner, as a 4-year-old, as a 3-year-old. That's pivotal. But as you grow, learning can happen and produce joy. It doesn't necessarily have to be fun, because quite frankly, it's a job, right?
it's hard.
It's a task that must be done. And something I always told my kids and still tell my kids, even though ours are now older, is, right now you have a job to do, and that is to be the student. And you're going to do that job to the best of your ability. And the amazing thing about learning, beautiful learning, when you focus on these critical skills, is that they are ready to soak it all in, and they're ready to spit it right back out so that you can see and they can see these wonderful accomplishments in speed drills, in reading, in tackling a new book, and going to chapter books. That is the joy of learning that I think happens. So don't equate joy of learning with fun. They're not the same thing.
They're different things, but you can make the day more enjoyable by how you present the material
Amen.
too. If you hate math and it is
They're
a
gonna know
drudgery, it is a drudgery for you, they're going to read you pretty
Yes.
well, and they're going to know, and they're not going to like it either because that's the message you're sending out when you
So we set
aren't
the tone.
smiling. So look what we get to do today. We get to do these speed drills today, and your smile and your enthusiasm and your joy, I think, is what's important.
It absolutely is. Whether it is sweeping the floor, doing the laundry, doing math facts, approaching school, starting the day, or starting back up after a break. That's just as important. And they will read everything, on teacher mom's face, right? So
They will, and you'll have your days, but for the most part, if you can put on that smile and really connect with your student with, just the joy somewhere, find that joy somewhere to present the materials, you're going to have a very successful.
And celebrate accomplishments. Accomplishments
Yes.
can be, a beautifully done speed drill or a set of flashcards that, we got all the answers right. I mean, just celebrate all day long, because every day is full of accomplishments.
And it will encourage your child to see their work on the refrigerator with a big smile
There we
face
go.
on it, or
Absolutely.
let them overhear you call your parents or your husband and say, look what they did today.
Right.
And especially if it's something hard for the student or that they don't really like to do, for them to overhear you bragging about them and their work is invaluable to their self-esteem.
That's
Yes.
right. It fills up that little bucket in their hearts. Absolutely. Michelle, thank you so much for coming here today with us and really just kind of going over the critical skills, helping parents understand where we want to hope to fit, and know that sometimes there are moments when we don't fit, and that's okay. Go back, review, shore up, make sure that we're laying the foundation, and find the joy and the celebrations in every day. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Carrie.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you liked our episode, click the thumbs up button or leave a comment below and let us know what you thought. Click the bell icon or subscribe to stay in the loop and get notifications of when we have new episodes. You can also check out our other resources and videos on classical homeschool education. I'm Carrie McGraw. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.